everybody. Welcome to the Talking Heartland podcast. This is the show where we're looking at back episodes of the Heartland TV show, and we've made it to season 10. Pretty amazing. We've conquered a decade worth of Heartland. Can you believe it, Michelle?
That is crazy. It's so crazy when you think about it. I mean, we've kind of we've done a slow binge, so it's been kind of quick, but at the same time, it's hard to believe it's 10 years. Like, we've literally watched these characters grow up in front of our eyes, over the course of a year and a half.
Yeah, it's we went from Amy being a high school student, young high school student, to now she's a married woman, she's pregnant. I mean, it has been a journey.
Yeah, for sure. Like, she's at the same age that Georgie is now when she started. So yeah,
that's true.
Crazy.
Yeah. And we really liked season 9, so it's going to be interesting to see what we think about season 10. The first episode, it's called There Will Be Changes, and it's Amy and Ty work to resolve a dangerous pregnancy issue. Georgie's extreme team practices start back up. Tim confronts Mitch, and Lou makes a decision about a new business venture. So what overall did you think about this? Do you think it was a pretty good premiere?
I thought it was okay. I'm not a huge fan of the episodes that jump around, especially when there's no really much need for it to jump around.
Yeah.
It's different if there's like a big event and you want to sort of flash back to how that started, but the timeline was sort of confusing. Like, I looked away and then I looked back and they were reintroducing the horse, and I was like, wait a minute, why are we watching a scene where they're buying the horse when they already had the horse? Like, I'd obviously looked away and missed the sort of graphic on the screen of days earlier or whatever it said. So it's a bit confusing for me.
Yeah, I felt like they were just dying to have that little surprise of it. Oh, it's actually the horse that has twins. Oh, we tricked you.
Yeah.
And so, because they show the ultrasound, oh, twins, and and that's the only reason I think they did that nonlinear storytelling.
It made me sort of pause, because I know that obviously Ty and Amy's daughter is played by twins, because that's just the way they sort of have actor kids, and I'm like, wait a minute, is it actually twins or is it just twins playing one person? So I was like, hang on a minute. I was going on very little sleep when I went into that first episode. I was like, oh man, what's happening here?
It was just a really cheap reveal. I was like, they didn't just do that, did they? And they did. So I kind of wish that I had somebody on this episode recap who had been pregnant, that one of the other hosts could come on, because it is a little bit hard for us to speak to it since neither of us have been.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually just thinking about that of so we've had it a little bit with Lou, but I feel like Amy is more the main character. We sort of with her the most. And yeah, it's a choice that I made to not have children, so it's not something that I can speak to. So yeah, it is a little bit difficult. It is something that, when you get invested in a couple on a TV show, for me, trying to think of one that I really loved. Probably on NCIS Los Angeles, there was a couple I really loved on that, and you sort of go through the whole process of the beginning of the relationship, the dating, and becoming official, and then married, and then when it gets to the kids, I do admittedly sort of not check out, but I just can't speak to that experience. So it's a little bit harder for me to connect with, and it's hard on TV as well, because it is very much the same thing. It's hard to imagine, it's very hard to write, because you don't want to do the same thing over and over.
Yeah, and I mean, Amy says that things aren't going to change, things are going to be the same, which is just obviously factually inaccurate.
Yeah.
I mean, she's gonna have a new child, a new routine, something. It is a change. I mean, that's just crazy to not think it won't change. But I do think that sometimes we as humans, when we've gone through something challenging, we like to kind of build it up, that it's, oh man, you're in for it. It's going to be like, I just remember feeling that way of like, when I started high school is so hard. High
Yeah.
school is very different, you know, or like before anything, people will tell you, whether it was before going to my mission, before going to college, before going, oh, and I think it
Yeah.
makes us feel good when we do that, because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, we survived
You
that
survived it. Yeah.
experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're super strong, we're super tough.
Hmm.
And we might think that we're kind of encouraging our friends, kind of giving
Hmm.
them a bit of a warning. We're on the same breath, I think it's kind of obnoxious, you know, that it's like our friends are strong, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it just can be kind of annoying to be constantly told, oh, this is going to be super hard, it's going to be super hard. Like people have done
Yeah.
it for, you know, since the dawn of time. It'll be
Yeah.
fine, you'll be fine. I don't know,
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be sort of a balance in between both those things.
Yeah. And I feel like they maybe should have leaned into a little bit of, you know, it's not so just a little bit of Amy's life that's going to change. It's, you know, she's she won't be able to ride a horse for a year. You know, it's going to be really, really difficult in that aspect. And I can understand her being in denial about that part. Like that would be really, really difficult. She's not able to do her job. You know, a lot of people are able to, you know, work through their pregnancy. And I'm
Right.
sure we'll see ways that they sort of are able to have her, you know, still be able to do her job just differently. But yeah, it's sort of, I don't appreciate it when they sort of make Lou the sort of naggy one, because I feel like it gives a lot of voice to people that maybe don't like that character, of like the saying, well,
Mhm.
you know, she's nagging again, or she's, you know, we sort of went through it with Lou before as well, so we have that experience of seeing her experience and her sort of struggles through her pregnancies. So yeah.
I did laugh though when Jack was like, "You are you, and Amy is Amy."
Yeah, 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 exactly.
I mean, I didn't know that you couldn't. I mean, it makes sense when you're late into your pregnancy, but I didn't know that you couldn't ride a horse. I guess
Yeah,
just the risk of getting bucked off
yeah,
and
the rest.
then
Yeah. Hmm.
is a
Yeah,
problem.
I think it is more the issue of falling, or you know, especially when she's working with temperamental horses and things like that.
Mhm. I did. My mom had babies as when I was older, when I was a
Hmm.
freshman in high school, and then when I was a just starting college.
Hmm.
So I did get to kind of experience, I guess, some things about pregnancy in those experiences. Uh,
Yeah.
randomly, when she was pregnant, her last pregnancy, she was super into Thai food, which you think you think that that would be too spicy for a lot of pregnancies, but no, that's all she wanted. And with my sister Anna, she wanted ice cream sodas all the time. With have you ever had with the obviously the ice cream and then the milk and the chocolate
Yeah.
syrup and then the club soda. So we had a little market that was just kitty corner from our house at the time, and so we could there was like a little path so we could easily go over there and get things no problem by ourselves. And I
Hmm.
remember going to get mom my mom ice cream for the sodas.
Oh my gosh.
But clementines, definitely, that is
Yeah, it's a
Amy's
healthy
thing.
choice.
Yeah, it is a healthy choice, better than the ice cream sodas. But I do love those clementines. They're so good.
Yeah, I'm the same. I could eat like 10. Just
Mhm. um, but yeah, I think that you should accept that obviously things are going to change, but I don't
Mhm.
think you need to feel like everything is going to change. There's like a balance in between that, of like you still have your family, you still have you should still have Ty, and you know, a lot of people, I've actually heard a lot of people say that, like, yes, it's hard, but it was like actually way more fun than they expected,
Mm.
just like bonding with the baby and spending time with the baby. And you know, I've heard that sentiment as well. We find out that Mitch has bought this horse named Minnie. And Tim is just in a mood. He's
Oh my
just
God. Yeah, I was just I was about to message you of like all those good times of season 9 are gone. Yeah,
like,
just
why
back
does he
to
have to be so difficult?
yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't like Peter. He doesn't like Mitch. He doesn't like Ty. He doesn't like, I mean,
And you would think you would be all about Mitch. I mean, Mitch is a ranch guy. Like
yeah.
that's sort of what he criticised Peter for a lot of the time. So yeah, and Mitch is just doing his job. He's not like he's barely had a conversation with Lou. So like his whole thing of like, Mitch's scenes with Georgie were so cute as well, and it sort of took away from that a little bit of
Yeah.
him just sort of turning it into like Mitch is manipulative and sort of try to worm his way into the family, and it's like he's done no such thing.
Yeah. He literally just done his job. And
He's done a
yeah,
job.
like him and Lou are attracted to each other. But as
Yeah.
far as Tim's concerned, it's really none of his business, first of all. And second of
Mhm.
all, I I don't understand why he would be opposed to this. I
Mhm.
really don't. So evidently horses don't have twins very often.
Mhm.
They're not that kind of animal, and it has a high death rate for the mother. 1
Mm.
in 1,000 is what I think they said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're really, really concerned. Okay, so then we have Georgie. She's starting she's back at the trick riding, and Olivia is really showing off. And we got
Yeah.
this new coach. What do you think of this new coach?
I'm interested to see where it's going because they sort of made her out to be very nasty from the get go.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't understand what they were trying to do. Of like, it's obviously harder for us to tell what's good and what's bad. I mean, they're throwing themselves off of horses. Like, it's all like impressive to me.
yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, the whole thing, of, especially when we've been told up till now that Georgie's, you know, one of the best, and that's why she's on this team. She's one of the youngest, and she's very talented and sort of. So yes, it's a bit strange that for this coach to come in and sort of target her out of nowhere.
Yeah. The coach says that Georgie looks like overcooked spaghetti,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that she has to put in way more work. And I've never been someone who's been motivated by that kind of like
mhm,
army
yeah. I don't understand.
mentality,
Yeah,
that mean and like
mhm,
I don't know. It's just, to me, that's, yeah, it's does the opposite. Like it
yeah,
makes sense in the army because you're trying to train people to kill people. In the end,
yeah,
you're training them to do these horrible things
hmm
as part of their job and what they have to do. So it makes sense to have that kind of attitude. But like in sports,
yeah,
I remember thinking of that when I was watching the American Underdog,
hmm
the Kurt Warner movie. I'm just like, I do not understand like this kind of motivation. It definitely
yeah. I
works for
know.
a lot of men, but not for me.
Yeah, no. Like, it's for me. Like I'm not a big. I should probably exercise way more than I do, but when I do, it's like I see this sort of spinning classes and they're really like intense, and I'm like, I don't understand that, especially when I sort of there's this amazing, I really forget his name, but there's this amazing guy on YouTube that sort of does his own business, his own hit classes, and
Mm,
he's so motivational of just like as long as you're moving your body, we're good. You need to step out, come back. As long as you finish it and you're moving your body the whole way through, I really don't care. And that's the motivation a lot of people need. They don't need this sort of pressure of like you need to, have somebody screaming at you the whole time and
yeah.
music blaring, and yeah, it's just very intense.
Like I can understand why coaches need to be tough,
Mhm.
and be like, you need to work harder, you need to do more, you need to, like, if you're having a goal to be an Olympian or something like that,
Mhm.
like, yeah, you need a coach who will be tough on
Mhm.
you. And because men and women are inherently lazy, and that's like the thing in life is to like fight laziness and do
Uh-huh.
more. That's the
Hmm.
challenge. And so you do need a coach who will be like, get up, go harder, be better.
Hmm.
But the whole like, you're a loser, I hate you, you're
Yeah,
overcooked
there's like
spaghetti. I
yeah,
mean, I
there's a
don't know.
middle ground.
It's just not, doesn't work for me. I'm not like
Yeah,
one of those whiplash people who are like
yeah, yeah,
trained.
yeah. They should all watch Friday Night Lights and just take, notes from Coach Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. So Georgie quits. And
Mm.
this is like an interesting parenting moment, I think, for Lou.
Yeah, this is a
Because,
great moment.
yeah, because like she obviously has the right to quit if
Hmm.
she's not happy. But in this case, there's a difference between quitting and giving up. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, and it's obviously that she's, in this new relationship and sort of has taken on a lot, and is finding something difficult, and instead of pushing back on that and fighting through it and fighting for her goals and the things that she actually wants to achieve with the trick riding, she's just sort of stepping back and giving up and saying, okay, that's fine, I've got this other new shiny part of my life that I can focus all of my attention on. But it was a great moment for Lou, especially everything Georgie did to get on the team and everything Lou went through.
Well, then also it kind of fits in perfect because Lou is trying to decide whether she wants to go to New York
Hmm.
and what she wants to do in her career. And I like when Lisa says to her, it looks like you're looking for us to give you permission to live your life.
Yeah,
And so when she's kind of going through this at the same time that Georgie's, thinking of quitting the team, it's a nice parallel.
yeah, for sure.
Mm. And I think as when you're growing up, you kind of miss those human moments from your parents, at least a lot of times. I think you do, because they're the authority figure. And you don't realize that sometimes they're just making it up every day. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah, yeah,
cute.
exactly.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, especially you got to feel it a little bit for Lou, where all of a sudden she's kind of parenting a teenager,
Yeah,
like because she adopted Georgie so late
yeah,
in Georgie's life that I think that would be especially challenging.
yeah, and especially because she wasn't really around for Amy's early teen years. She sort of came into
Mm,
Amy's life when she was sort of 15, 16.
yeah,
So she's no sort of experience in sort of being around teenagers on a day-to-day basis. And
true.
she's, yeah, like you say, she's doing it on her own. Um, and I think that's why it's so great to have people like Jack around and Lisa that
Yeah.
are sort of encouraging and supportive in the perfect way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really buy that you could have a Maggie's in
Yeah,
Times
this is crazy.
Square. I mean,
Yeah, this is. I feel like this is yet another thing that Heartland is doing to give an actor some time off,
yeah.
and we'll come to this again in episode 3. But yeah, the way they write characters out is not great.
Yeah. I mean, because it's just like a normal diner.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like a cowboy diner.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's so special about Maggie's that Lou has to be there to set the whole thing up.
Yeah. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And then you have uh Georgie going on a date with Adam, and she looked
Hmm.
so pretty. It was
Oh
a
my God, she's grown up so
yeah.
much. It's so.
I love that blue dress. It was really cute.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness, how long have you been watching this show?
Yeah, and then we find out that the fools come, and they did that scene incredibly well. I don't know how you do that scene.
Yeah, yeah, it was grim, I have to admit. Like, it was pretty gory, but we both watch All Creatures Great and Small, and they have some intense scenes of like animal surgeries and births, and yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
don't know
pretty
how
grim.
for both shows. I don't know how they do it.
I have
It's
no
so
idea.
it looked so real that
Yeah,
there was really this full that they were really having twins. It looked so real. And with the sack all over it and everything, and
yeah.
it was
Jack just
good.
yeah,
Hmm.
Jack just going in with his bare hands and
Yeah. And Ty.
hmm
And then Tim and Jack give Amy Cradle, which I have to say I would be a little bit irritated if I was Lou. Or was this Cradle
we
for
couldn't find it
Katie?
in time. Yeah,
Guess they didn't know the family cradle.
yeah,
And then they have Ty and Amy at the end watching the ultrasound of their baby, which was so cute.
yeah. That was really cute.
Very
Almost
exciting.
kind of made up for the switcheroo they tried to pull on us.
Yeah, it was adorable. All right. So then what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
Um, give it like an 8.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it was good. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
All right, then we have You Just Know, and this is Ty has to perform surgery. Amy and Georgie take care of the new foals. Lou and Mitch deal with their attraction towards each other. So overall, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I like this one. I was confused about the Georgia storyline, but it's next episode. Yeah, I like this one. I mean, the Lou and Mitch stuff is so good. And if Lou has to go away again, I like that they sort of give us a little bit of, their attraction towards each other and their chemistry before they take her away again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Katie and the goldfish was so funny.
Oh my God, hilarious. Like, I knew that Tim was just going to be like, but his whole thing of just not accepting any responsibility is so funny.
I mean, it is true that you never expect goldfish to last more than like a week tops.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe if it's super fancy.
Yeah. I remember when I was younger, like I was really into. Like, I've always been into animals. But I was too young for a dog of my own. We sort of had family dogs, but I was too young for a dog of my own. So I had fish, I had hamsters, I had mice for a while, and after I was just devastated when they kept dying because they don't live for very long. And my dad was like, "That's it, that's enough, that's enough." And I got a cat, who was amazing, and I had him for years. But that put a stop to all of the animals dying. But it is a part of growing up, and it's obviously it's going to be a huge part of her life. She has to, if you live on a ranch, that's something that you're going to have to get used to seeing, day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is actually kind of strangely something that's helpful about mostly Disney movies is that you can watch them and then have like those tough discussions about you can watch Bambi and then talk about, oh, so your bubbles died. Let's talk about that.
Most distressing movie ever.
Yeah. But so Ty and Amy are looking at baby names, and I do remember this with my mom, going through the baby names for all of them. And my mom, we'd always have a name picked out that we were going to name, and then my mom would have like, it would be divine intervention at the last minute. She'd be like, no, that's not the right name. Or what? And we were going to name my brother Samuel, we were going to name him Luke. But then my mom was like, oh, everyone's gonna think of Star Wars and everything. And so we ended up, he's Samuel Luke Wagner is his name.
Compromise.
And, yeah. And then with Madeline, we were gonna name her Emma. But then my mom found out that day that there were like 3 other Emmas in the hospital that day.
Oh,
and
God
so she was like, no. And so Madeline is probably the most unusual. It's not that unusual, but it's the most of any of ours, because we have Benjamin, Rachel, Megan, Anna, Samuel, and Madeline in the family. And
Madeline's really pretty.
yeah. And I can't remember what we were going to. I think with Anna, we talked about naming her Beth. But then my mom felt like that was too sad because of, Little Women and Beth and everything.
Oh my gosh. yeah, that's traumatizing.
Yeah. So baby names are always kind of, I don't know why we spent all this time with the book and everything, because it's just up to the mom in the end, I think. It's whatever she wants. She did all the work. And she thought that Rachel and Megan were pretty unique, but that was like everybody in 1981 and 1984.
Yeah. I've got the most boring. Yeah, I've got the most boring name. My dad's name is Michael, so I was named Michelle. Like, so boring.
Do you have any siblings, or are you only child?
Half sister and a brother. I'm the younger.
Yeah. And so but I think it would probably be a fun part about being pregnant is looking through all the baby names.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's all on apps now. You don't even need to go.
It's funny now that because pop culture is such a big part of our lives now, of people just naming their babies after, like, I'll remember the amount of people that named their babies after Daenerys from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
And then she turned out to be the villain.
Well, yeah, and there was like a lot of resume calling, because of Twilight and stuff like that.
Could you imagine naming your child Ernest?
my two of my nieces, one is named Olive and one is named Sparrow, and I think those are.
I think Sparrow. That's really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's unusual without being ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Yeah, that's
Like there was a girl in my high school who named her daughter Nature Rain. It wouldn't have been my choice, but whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting process. So we get to see Tiny Amy with that, and then we also see that Minnie has colic, and she's struggling to get enough food for both foals. And these foals, they eat like every 2 hours. That was brutal.
Yeah, it's like sort of any sort of baby animal. It's like these people that foster, like, they're total saints.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it, of like fostering puppies, and you have to be up every 2 hours, like, oh my goodness. And you have to do your actual job, and oh my God, you don't even get to keep the dogs in the end.
And that was so sweet though, when Ty falls asleep in the stall.
Yeah, he's like, I do night shifts all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, our friend, we actually have a number of friends of the podcast that foster animals. Greg McBride is often doing that. Our friend Becky, she often has a litter of puppies. I think she just got a new one. I was like, oh, they're so cute.
Oh my God. I mean,
unbelievable. But then you also have Mitch's horse, Maverick, I think is the name, that has those bite marks that from the other horse named Percy. They do not get along.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was a fun way of getting Mitch and Lou together in a scene. Just getting them
Yeah.
on a little trail ride together.
Although I didn't really like Lou calling Mitch's date a bimbo.
Oh my god. Jealous Lou is just on another level. She's getting no information whatsoever to go on. And she's just like slandering this poor woman who's done nothing wrong.
But we do get a sexy wood chopping scene.
Oh my god, yeah. I would if I wasn't so busy, I would have like stopped and looked for the gifts. Because I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah. I think our friend Caroline would really like that.
She's probably already got like a file of all the Hallmark wood chopping.
Yeah. And you get this whole Mitch wanting to go on a trail ride with Lou, and he's like, "You're not avoiding me, are you?" No, not avoiding me. And Mitch says, "I think you should stay only because I'll miss having you around," because you're still debating at this point.
Yeah.
And it was cute, very flirty.
Yeah, the chemistry is so good. It's so good, and yeah, he sort of doesn't let her away with anything. Of like, he knew the entire time that she was seething over this girl, and he just let it play out.
Yeah, it's a fun dynamic. I mean, they just have so
Yeah.
much better chemistry than Lou and Peter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then we also have this whole thing with Olivia at practice. She gets upset because of a phone call. She falls on a trick. Turns out her cinch wasn't tight enough, and it was actually this girl named Sam who loosened the cinch. And so then we have Georgie talking to Sam about it, and Sam says, "Sometimes you have to bend the rules. You might be okay with being mediocre." And so then she threatens Georgie, but luckily the coach overhears.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think this is the same girl from last season who got Georgie into trouble with the party, and they wanted to go do that party, and sort of Lou found out and put a stop to it, and she's like the older girl. But yeah, Georgie just has no luck when it comes to friends. I feel so bad for her.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true.
yeah, she's getting, I suppose Jade is the only sort of one that she can trust. And I find Adam to be very boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's just got no luck because they're not making any sort of development with Olivia whatsoever. I'm just not interested in seeing the same thing over and over. Of like either sort of decide that they're not going to be friends, that they're not going to be any sort of, that it's just going to be a rivalry.
Yeah, I mean,
back and forth of
yeah,
playing her
I
as the
like
sympathetic character.
yeah, I like the fact that Georgie is willing to stick up for Olivia because it's right, even though she doesn't like her, though. That is good, but yeah, it's kind of like we've seen this over and over and over again.
Like they're trying
And
to make us feel bad for Olivia, who probably, if the tables were turned, would have probably done the same thing.
yeah. And so Sam gets suspended from the team, and she says, "If you want something in life, you have to take it." So, I mean, this is intense stuff. This trick writing.
Yeah, trick writing is really intense.
I guess so. I guess so. So then you have this great scene where Tim and Jack are trying to tell Katie about Bubbles, and she's just like, "Oh, I already knew."
Yeah, she just wanted to flush it down the toilet.
Which was great. And then you have a scene between Mitch and Lou where they say the timing is bad, the timing is off, because she's going to be going to New York, but she's only going to be in New York for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, they said it was back and forth, and so I'm assuming that it means that Michelle Morgan will be in and out this season.
Yeah. And I did like, so Georgie's having to figure out what her most memorable moment is. And she says the most memorable moment was her people watching. Well, so Georgie says my people watching me and the trick riding was my most memorable moment. And
Mhm.
the day I was adopted was the most memorable moment because when you're adopted, your family gets to pick you, which was very sweet.
Yeah, this was so like I definitely teared up when this letter
Mm,
started, and you knew exactly what was coming. It was very manipulative.
sure. Yeah, it definitely got me thinking, like, what would I say is my most memorable moment? Uh,
Mm,
it's a tricky one.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think one of mine for sure was when I quit my job that I was so miserable at, and that I just never forget that day when I I had my, box of stuff from my desk and
Mhm.
walking down there was a steep staircase, walking down that staircase and just knowing I was done and I did it and I had quit like I thought in a responsible way with training my, next person after me and
Mhm.
I was just done. It was such a hard experience. And that was
Mhm.
definitely one of my most memorable moments. And then that weekend, my friends and I, we did a staycation at a local Marriott here.
Mhm.
And we went to Buca de Beppo's and we got to sit at the chef's table, like in the kitchen.
Mhm.
And that was just, I was just never been more happy, I think, in my life is that moment of knowing I
Yeah.
was free from and I had done it and that was great. That's definitely up there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you think of
Mine
one
would
on top?
probably yeah, mine would probably be very similar. I've worked in kitchens, and that was what I went to college for, to
Uh,
study under a chef, and I just worked for a really, really horrible person for about a year. And it was a job I'd been in for about 5 years. Um, but this new person came in and was just an absolute nightmare to work with and a bully. And I left for a couple of weeks. I came back expecting things to sort of be different, and they weren't. So I just picked up my bag and walked out.
oh, best. I love a good epic quit.
And I was
My
done. I
favorite.
was like, yeah, I don't care. It took me a while to find another job, but it was so worth it.
Yeah, it can seem scary, and I didn't have another job to fall back on, but
Yeah,
I was going to grad school at the time, and I thought this is crazy, but your happiness is the most important thing. Like if you are
yeah.
miserable, just I stayed too long because I was scared. But yeah, take the leap if you're listening and you're to do it.
Get too
Prioritize your
comfortable. Yeah,
happiness.
you get too comfortable and you think that there's no other options, but there always is.
There always is. I mean, there there's there is, and if you got to have some faith
Hmm.
about it. Yeah, I feel very strongly about that. But what would you give
Yeah.
this episode 1 to 10?
Um, I would give this an 8.5 for a little bit extra for the Mitch.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say 8, but yeah, they do have really good chemistry, and there was a good kiss.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. So then our next episode is called New Kid in Town. This is Tim is caught in the middle of a showdown with a new hotshot Bronc rider. Georgie is feeling trapped in a rivalry of her own. Amy and Jack work with a top flight Bronc that has lost his mojo. And Ty faces dilemma. Old feelings are rekindled. So overall, what do you think of this one?
I've mixed feelings on this one just because of where I think it's going to go for the rest of the season. As far as Ty's concerned. Um, and I wasn't crazy about the sort of Tim storyline. It feels like the sort of Bronco school is sort of going nowhere or sort of repeating a lot. So it'll be interesting with this new guy if it can give it a little bit of fresh blood. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit tired of it.
Yeah. I kind of I wish that we didn't have this storyline with Casey because it was such a good relationship between Tim and Casey that having it turn into this kind of love triangle is disappointing.
Yeah.
So basically there's this student named Clay who is a jerk. He's rude. He's misogynistic to Jade. And he is Casey's nephew, right? Or cousin?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Nephew.
Yeah. And they do not get along at all. But the cowboy is interested in Jade. And yeah, you totally see that kind of rom-com that they're going to end up falling for each other in the end. But I really wish he wasn't such a jerk.
Yeah, it feels like they go too far sometimes of like, you know, they don't have to. I mean, they've done the same with Mitch of having him feel like a completely different character from one episode to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, having him seem like such a jerk, and then the next episode he's like completely different and very charming, and yeah.
True. Yeah, they can't quite decide what they want to do, I think, sometimes with Tim.
Yeah.
We also have Bob. He's very angry about the Gobi bears in Thailand, I think, or Mongolia.
Yeah.
And so he wants to go and fight the poachers in Mongolia, and he wants Ty to go with him. But I'm not sure exactly what they would be able to do. Don't they, when they need more people, bigger group,
Yeah.
the government?
Yeah, I had no idea. There was no information given of, what a vet is going to do over there. Is he going to be caring for the bears that are being
Yeah, and
is he
how
going to
long
protect?
are they supposedly going to be there? Because I mean, he's
Yeah, 4
worried
months.
about, was it 4 months? Is that what they said?
4
Oh yeah,
months.
4 months.
4 months, and Amy is due in 5.
Yeah, that's tricky. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that. Especially your first, like, I mean, unless you're
First
in the
child.
army,
Yeah,
you
like
want to
I
be
feel like,
there.
yeah, I feel like it's going to be in the next episode, and that he's going to go, and I think it's a very, very weak way to write him out of the show because of everything that we know of Ty. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense that he would leave, especially considering how concerned he is about Amy in terms of her doing her job and working with horses, and how worried he is about the pregnancy. For him to just go away for 4 months makes no sense.
Yeah.
And to do what? Like, they really need to tell us what he's doing and what's so essential that he needs to go.
Yeah, it does feel pretty weak. You're right. Like, it would almost just be better, I don't know, for him to just not be in the plots that much.
Yeah.
If he needs to be shooting something else, just, I don't know, you could just say, just not even address it. He's just not there. Like, I don't think you need to create a complicated backstory for every
Or
episode.
have them go do a vet course, or something that's going to help them in the future with their business. Scott had an opportunity for him. You don't have to
Yeah.
send them to another country.
One thing that was interesting is you have Jack actually cooking ribs in this episode.
Yeah.
And what I thought about that was when I was interviewing Michelle Morgan, I was talking to her about the way that the cowboys aren't super macho in the show. But she did say, she's like, the women almost always cook the meals in the show. And I was like, that is true.
Yeah.
But this would be an example, at least. I mean, I guess barbecue is still kind of sort of seen as a manly cooking, I guess. But here's one where Jack is cooking, which I thought was good. And it's interesting because we see women as, making the meals, but for a long time, most of the chefs were men. So it's weird how we are able to switch so often what roles are appropriate for traditionally how we gender stereotype certain roles. depending on the environment.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It feels like
But
a lot of Hallmark movies that we watch, like there's a lot of male cooks and chefs and
that's true. So there is this horse called Hellion, which I think you're kind of asking for it to be a
yeah,
tough horse when you give it that name.
yeah, exactly. You're giving this course a lot to live up to.
They all fail to trying to train this horse, and uh, it's bucking really bad. Jade challenges to ride Elian, and yeah, it's doesn't go well. She gets bucked off.
Yeah, yeah.
She says she hates losing, especially in front of this guy.
Yeah, he's just the worst. He's the absolute worst. And I
Mhm.
don't understand why they made him be the sort of victor in this.
It's like they're trying to do what they did with the rodeo rider in the early seasons. I can't think of his name.
Mhm.
That was into Amy that she kisses. What's his name?
Oh yeah. Oh God.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah. I can only think of the actor and I can't even think of the actor's name.
It starts with a T. I feel like it starts with a T, but it's not Trace. Something like that. Anyway,
Terrence. Is it Terrence?
yeah. Chase Powers, that was his name. Feels like they're trying to go there,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't think it's really working that well.
No. And
Mhm.
especially it's like, and again they've done the same with Lisa back in season 1 or 2. They had her nephew sort of show up and be a jerk. It's like why do all the cast members characters have jerky relatives?
Yeah, that's true. Why do they have jerky relatives? Um, and I did love seeing that Katie beat Jackson checkers. That was really funny.
Yeah, that was cute. Like they have he's so good at working with the kid actors.
Uh-huh.
Like it makes him feel very natural and very he's just so great with the kids and you can definitely tell that, that kid's, very much in the scene. She's not acting, she's just
Right.
having an experience with this actor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. He brings out the best in whether it was Mallory or
Hmm.
Georgie or Amy, and he
Hmm.
brings out the best in those characters, I think. And so then we have Amy getting a new changing table. She's starting to kind of get that nesting. I do think I don't know if you remember those ads where it's like I think it was for Loves or one of those diaper brands where they're like first kid, everything's all like pristine and everything, and then like second kid. Like in this case, it would be like first kid, this pristine changing table. Second kid, it's like on your lap with you're changing.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like throwing the diaper. I remember that in a back when John and Kate +8 was like actually a cute show before it
Hmm.
got all horrible, and she would do that. She would throw the diapers, and I remember my mom would do that too. Be like, you got to get out of the way if she's she she was changing the baby. Get
Yeah,
out of
she
the
was
way. You don't want to get a face of diaper.
done.
But
She was done
anyway,
for that.
so then so Jade, she like oh we already did that. Let's see here. So then Adam gets all
Oh my God.
annoyed about the fact that Georgie did better than him. She got
Yeah.
95% on the test. Adam's very upset, and that wasn't a good look for him.
No, not at all. Like considering he's the tutor, he's the one that's been teaching her.
Mhm.
You think he would be like proud, but yeah, is very, he came across as very sort of immature and selfish.
And since
And
he's
there's
not really
nothing for us that aren't, completely sold on that character.
right. Yeah, since we're already not that sold on the character, for him to come off as super petty. And it's
Yeah,
just a shame because I don't know why they had to get rid of Steven, because that
yeah.
was a lot better.
hmm
But then we also have this scene between Casey and Tim. Tim says, if you want to give it another shot. And then we get a kiss between Tim and Casey. So I guess they are trying it again. Hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, because I'm not 100% convinced that they're ending game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly wants something more than
Right.
she's able to sort of give him at this point, which is, completely within her rights, and it's good to have a character that knows that knows her limits and knows what she wants. But yeah, it doesn't help that Tim's back to being petty Tim this
Right.
season.
Yeah. I mean, I like them together, but
Yeah.
just with him being so critical of everybody in his life, it's just kind of like
Yeah, and I don't understand this whole thing of being a drill sergeant with the students either. Like, why
right.
did they have to run the course? Like, why
Oh
did they
yeah,
have
the
to
whole
run?
obstacle course that they
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
like, why did they have to do that?
Yeah. And it didn't even seem to help them at all with their
No,
horse
no.
with their
No.
rodeo training.
Yeah, they were
So
still low IQ.
yeah, it was like an ego trip for Tim.
Yeah. hmm
There we go. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
I would give it an 8.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess. Yeah, you're really
yeah, like
high on all 3 of these.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe 7.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7.5. 7.5, I think is good. So let us know if you're listening what you think of all 3 of these episodes. Are you as high on all 3 as we are? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And Michelle, how can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And also make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. Those 5-star ratings and reviews. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store where we have Heartland inspired merch on the merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much, Michelle. And we'll talk next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.